I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
Would you like to know more?
You know, war movies usually seem to come in two varieties. Either they're multi-million-dollar blockbusters in which the human values get totally lost, or they're intimate little stories in which we never really feel the overwhelming reality of war. But Soldier of Orange seems to get both dimensions in focus. It's about the wartime experiences of a Dutch hero and 5 of his close friends, and it suggests what the Second World War meant to them in individual terms and also how it altered the face of history. The movie begins in Holland as news of the outbreak of war interrupts a tennis game.
This morning, a final note was handed to the German government, but no reply has been received.
It's war!
Consequently, from this moment, England is in a state of war with Germany. There will now be a statement by the Prime Minister.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street.
Soldier of Orange follows a lot of those young men. Some of them become heroes, some become traitors, some are held as prisoners, and some eventually die. The movie is based on the memoirs of Erich Hazelhoff, a real-life spy who traveled dangerously back and forth between England and German-occupied Holland. And in this scene, Hazelhoff watches as his comrades leave Holland to be picked up by seaplane and taken to England. But a Nazi patrol boat breaks up their rendezvous at sea.
Robbie!
Soldier of Orange is a large-scale, intelligent, exciting war movie, and it's opening slowly around the country. It's opening several cities at a time, and I think it's worth looking for.
I agree with you. There are some slow patches. It's actually boring in some spots, as far as I'm concerned. I like it for the very reason that you mentioned, which is that it's somewhere between the epic scale and the small personal story. Another kind of odd reason why I like it has to do with the fact that, you know, most war movies present this evil cabal of men that must be defeated by the good guys, and they're on the side of God, and they'll vanquish them from the face of the earth. Well, this movie is a little bit more realistic, a little more wise about the human nature in war. It says that wars exist as a natural course of events for human beings, and that people react differently. They react somehow beyond forces of their control, and some act very much in control of what they're doing. Very matter-of-fact telling of a war story. I liked it for that reason.
I agree with your word realistic. This, of course, is a real-life story. It's based on the memoirs of a real man who really went through these experiences, and somehow watching the movie is like the experience of listening to this guy talk rather directly, simply, and modestly about the extraordinary things that happened to him. He's not bragging. He's not a great Superman. He's not a Dutch Audie Murphy with wooden shoes on. These things happened. He got through as best he could, and it turned out pretty well for him, actually. So that tone of the movie is quite a change from most war movies.
And that's probably the tone of our recommendation, which is that it's a pretty good film, not the greatest picture ever made, but a good story. Our first film is the atrocious Flesh and Blood, set in the year 1501, but not for a minute do we believe its time period, especially when at one point in the film somebody says, that person's got the bubonic plague, and we realize that in 1501 they didn't know it was called the bubonic plague. They're off by a couple of centuries. This film always seems very contemporary and quite false, especially in performance and the dialogue, like I just mentioned. The title, Flesh and Blood, here's some of the pictures flesh, as a warrior, Rutger Hauer, and his hostage, a rich young woman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, goes skinny dipping in what I guess is an early 16th century version of a hot tub. It's laughable.
Let's clean off the dirt of the last couple of days. Huh?
You think that's so easy?
Maybe if I scrub real hard.
That's sort of tasteless kiddie porn. The only good action scene in the film, and it's ridiculous, is a specially built 16th century hook and ladder built for invading castles. Sure, and every invading army ought to have one. They only cost more than the gross national product of the kingdom, exactly. This film, Flesh and Blood, is run on violence. You could stop it really at any point. The ending wouldn't make any difference as we watch people chase each other around the countryside, one person more reprehensible than another. I almost defy you to find who's the good guy, who's the bad guy in this picture. The person sitting next to me when I saw this film said, you know, this is almost like a porno film. And I think that's true not only in terms of the girlish nudity that we saw, but also the love of violence. Someone's head is split open, brains are pushed back in, arrows pierce a hand, ripped off. It's a waste of film, totally.
I would forgive all of the violence, or at least some of the violence, if there were a hero in the film and if there were a villain in the film, instead of everybody being a reprehensible creep. There's no person in the film that you can get behind. And the woman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, that you saw there, the movie never declares which one of the two men she's in love with. She's engaged to marry the young guy, then she's captured by Rutger Hauer, then she kind of likes him, then the young guy comes along. It never declares, it doesn't know. The idea of being true to somebody or having emotions like that is alien to this film.
It's alien to this film because, frankly, they want to exploit her naked body, which they do for about 20 minutes. Next at the movies, RoboCop is a wonderfully funny, inventive, and agreeably violent piece of science fiction, and I can't remember the last time I put all those adjectives together because, as a rule, I think most science fiction movies are sort of stupid with their futures that always look like the present, only worse. Well, RoboCop is set in futuristic Detroit, and it doesn't look very good, but the story is a howl and action-filled at the same time. It's the story of a private company contracted to build a mechanical cop because so many of the real cops are being killed each day in Detroit. Unfortunately, the initial boardroom test of the mechanical cop is less than successful.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kinney.
You now have 15 seconds to comply. You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113, Section 9. You now have 5 seconds to comply. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Somebody want to call a paramedic?
Dick, I'm very disappointed. I'm sure it's only a glitch.
Well, as they said in Some Like It Hot, nobody's perfect. A possible replacement to get the cop killers is a half-man, half-machine called RoboCop. His story is sort of sad. He's really a police officer who's been maimed and put back together as a machine.
What are your prime directives?
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
It's good. It's very good.
Nancy Allen plays RoboCop's old partner. She was with him when he was wounded, and in this scene, she helps him get his targeting system corrected after he's been in a fight.
Can I help you? Are you locked in now?
Yes.
A little more to the left. Here. I figure that's dead on.
Thank you.
That's Peter Weller as RoboCop, the star of Buckaroo Banzai. He's dead on. The whole movie is dead on, both as a thriller and as an unexpected comedy. A lot of people deserve credit for this film. Foremost, I guess, is the highly regarded Dutch director Paul Verhoeven, who has previously made some highbrow films like Spetters, Soldier of Orange, and The Fourth Man. Maybe his serious-mindedness helped anchor what could have been a very silly movie into some area of convincing emotion. And Peter Weller and Nancy Allen, plus the whole crew of business executives we saw in that first scene and the bad guys in this film are just fine. RoboCop is quite violent, to be sure, but it is so well made that I think it ranks with the quality of the Mad Max movies, which were also violent and well made. In fact, I like this better than the Mad Max movies.
Well, you're lumping all the Mad Max movies together, and I like them better than you did, so I like them better than I like this. But I did like this.
This is good.
This is a fun movie. And one of the strange things about it, we saw it in that very first scene of the machine that goes out of control, is there was something intrinsically funny about any sort of a machine or even a trained animal that is only following instructions and does so in the face of logic. Right. That always tickles me whenever I see it. In that scene, tragic as it is for the poor guy who picks up the gun, had me howling in the theater, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything you liked about it, including the nice, tough relationship there with Nancy Allen, who plays a little different character this time. Yeah. She's convincing as a cop, and Weller overcomes the handicap of having to play half of the movie inside all of that armor.
I mean, you do have a little bit of The Fly in here with the love relationship with the guy who's half creature and half man. A lot of technology in this film, which, you know, I thought I've said before, I'm tired of it with Predator and Arnold Schwarzenegger, but with this director, Verhoeven, it's good.
I just want to kill you.
I don't know, but it had something to do with Mars.
Mars?
She's his wife on Earth, but is she on the level, and is she really his wife? When he gets to Mars, another woman doesn't think so.
What?
I don't remember you.
What are you talking about?
I don't remember you. I don't remember us. I don't even remember me. Take this thing out of the case.
Arnold gets a message from his own past, while a goon squad tries to kill him under orders from the big boss on Mars.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cap. Where can I take you tonight?
Drive! Drive! Like all of the Schwarzenegger action pictures, this one varies the pace with flashes of humor.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here, Hauser.
Look who's talking.
One of the intriguing things about Total Recall is that there's always the tantalizing possibility that everything in this movie is a dream. At one point, in fact, the doctor even seems to walk into Schwarzenegger's life and try to talk him out of his delusions, but are they delusions, or has this construction worker from Earth really been thrown into a revolutionary war on Mars? Is he a guy imagining things, or is he really a spy with a beautiful girlfriend? Total Recall is one of the most ambitious and offbeat science fiction movies in a long time, and Schwarzenegger's performance is an important part of the impact because he's not a Superman here, even though he does fight like one. He's a confused man who tries to handle a dangerous situation without knowing what's real and what's not, or what side he's really on. I liked it.
I liked the first hour a lot. The picture starts out and has some really fabulous special effects. There's a thing where they go through a scanning device, like going through an airport X-ray detector, and the whole body is X-rayed. And the way that special effect is done is exciting. Once he gets to the red planet, I think the picture starts to resemble itself all the way through, which is it real, is not real, and he's fighting this one guy. And for me, the back half of the picture broke down. I enjoyed thoroughly the beginning part. I wish they had come up, I don't know whether they need a third act or some kind of resolution, but as I was sitting there and watching...
Well, no, I enjoyed the second hour because I enjoyed... Suddenly we got all these other supporting characters. For example, everyone in that last resort bar, you know,
the sex bar.
Turns out that all of the prostitutes and bartenders are actually members of the Revolutionary Underground. And I also loved the look of the space station on Mars and the planet outside, although I must confess I was distracted several times by whatever rudimentary knowledge of science that I have, all of which was totally contradicted by this film. I mean, if you go in there and try to figure out what the scientific problems are with the plot, they're enormous.
Well, I think, would you agree that the setup of the picture is more interesting than the payoff?
No, I wouldn't.
The payoff, it doesn't really, you don't even know at the end, and we shouldn't give it, you don't know what the reality is at the end, and I don't think it really matters.
In other words, you don't know at the end if it's real or not?
The way he said...
But then in that case, the implication is there, even though I won't give it away.
What I'm saying is it doesn't make any difference which way they flipped it. It really wouldn't make any difference, and that's, I think, the weakness of the last half of the picture.
I don't think many people would complain about that.
All right, well, we'll see.
Our first movie is named Basic Instinct, and this is a whodunit where it doesn't really pay to waste a lot of your time trying to figure out who did it, because the whole answer depends on one single, arbitrary final shot, which I'm not going to give away. When you see the film, the final shot indicates that a certain character is the killer. But if they had left out that final shot, you'd probably think a different character was the murderer, because all of the evidence in this movie can be read in two different ways. The movie stars Michael Douglas as a troubled police detective who investigates a murder where the prime suspect is a novelist played by Sharon Stone, who has written a book describing exactly the kind of murder she's suspected of committing.
What's your new book about?
A detective. He falls for the wrong woman.
The Stone character is bisexual and uses her sexuality to intrigue the policemen who are cross-examining her.
You ever engage in any sadomasochistic activity?
Exactly what did you have in mind, Mr. Corelli?
Even as the evidence against Stone seems to be piling up, Douglas falls more and more under her spell.
You won't learn anything I don't want you to know.
Yes, I will. And I'll nail you.
No. You'll just fall in love with me.
I'm in love with you already.
A police psychologist complicates the situation. She's seen Douglas because he's in trouble with the department. Another complication, these two are having an affair.
She seduces people. She manipulates people. She'll do anything she can.
I thought you hardly knew her.
I know the type. I'm a psychologist.
That means you manipulate people too, Beth. You're a practicing psychologist. You're better at it than she is.
Basic Instinct has been protested against by various gay rights groups because all of the women in the film are either lesbians and or possible murderers and or both. They have a point. Leaving the controversy aside, Basic Instinct will be a disappointment to admirers of such movies as Jagged Edge, Sea of Love, and Fatal Attraction because the more you understand the plot, the more you realize how mechanically constructed it is. That last shot may have answered my questions, but it left me feeling cheated because it was absolutely arbitrary.
Oh, Roger, I can defeat this movie on more than just the last shot. I don't think that this movie is about anything. Fatal Attraction had a real sharp knowledge of how people were worried about casual sex and about extramarital affairs.
Did, yeah.
This picture isn't about a damn thing except other than its hot sex scenes.
This is simply manipulation.
Absolutely.
It's mechanical, it's wind-up, it's Tinker Toys, it's take this character and make you think this and make you think that, and at the end, either throw in a shot and you think one thing, take the shot out, you think something else. It doesn't matter. Your emotions are not involved. You don't care who did it.
No, exactly right. Take out the sex scenes in Fatal Attraction, you still got a good movie, an interesting movie. Take out the sex scenes here, you got nothing.
Well said.
Okay, hey, thank you for the compliment.
Showgirls has inspired a lot of curiosity because it's the first big-budget NC-17 rated movie to be released by a Hollywood studio since Henry and June in 1990. What does it do to earn its adults-only rating? Well, it has a lot of nudity, mostly of the topless variety, although there is some sort of vague pubic nudity, and there's also a lot of blunt talk about sex and the kind of thrusting motion in a lap dance and in a pool scene that the MPAA always looks for and says, oh, that can't go in an R-rated movie. But the plot is just another sleazy soap opera, and in many ways, this movie doesn't go nearly as far as the R-rated Basic Instinct, which was also directed by Paul Verhoeven and written by Joe Esterhaas. The movie stars Elizabeth Berkley as Nomi, a woman without a past or much of a future, who moves to Las Vegas and gets a job in a trashy strip joint. Gina Gershon plays the star of a glitzy show in one of the big casinos, and she brings her boyfriend to see Nomi work, although she's as intrigued as he is.
You like her?
That's Kyle MacLachlan, who also works for the big casino. Attracted by the younger woman's defiance, the star gets her an audition for the chorus line, and they develop a real love-hate relationship.
Nomi's got heat.
Does she now?
Yes, she does. Oh, in a totally different way, of course.
The backstage details supply the most interesting stuff in the movie, including rehearsal scenes like this one with the seasoned pros who hold the show together.
That's enough. Thank you, ladies.
What Nomi soon discovers is that work at the casino may also involve entertaining high rollers.
Hear Caesar sing? You ever heard Caesar sing? Man, that guy's great. You'll love him.
Showgirls does have a certain entertainment value in its sleazo stupido way, and I wasn't bored by the film. It also has several hilarious moments and lines of dialogue that I'm not sure were intended to get laughs, but I'm glad they left them in because I did laugh. What's disappointing is that the Joe Esterhaas screenplay shows absolutely no ambition to be the least bit better than it absolutely has to be. Basically, he has simply recycled the oldest showbiz formula in the book where the chorus girl takes over for the star, and then he's disguised it with a lot of nudity and some fairly routine sex. Right before I saw Showgirls, I saw another Vegas movie called Leaving Las Vegas. It's going to open in a few weeks, and it is so much more powerful and insightful about Las Vegas and about sex that it blows this one right out of the water.
I had the same reaction to this picture, Roger, and that was disappointment with Joe Esterhaas. He's the highest paid screenwriter in history, and I really don't think he earned his money this time. It is the most simplistic. It is all about Eve and a G-string, and it really is the lines of dialogue, the insight. You said show business details backstage. What, putting ice on your breast to make things stand out? That's old stuff.
That's one detail, but also maybe the rehearsal and the audition process and how people get jobs and what they have to do to get the jobs.
We saw it in a chorus line. There isn't anything original in this picture.
No, there isn't. I didn't say there was.
Not a single thing that's original in the picture. And is it that sexy? There's one lap dance where you're just stunned that Elizabeth Berkley can do that with her body, but, I mean, twist around as much as she does, but it's not sexy at all. And she's not sexy. She's hard around the face. I didn't think she was particularly appealing. I thought the other woman was more attractive.
Gina Gershon,
yes. More attractive. So I don't think they have an attractive star. They don't do anything original in the screenplay at all. I didn't care for the film.
Well, I didn't either. And I'll tell you, the thing that bothers me is Esther Haas basically had an opportunity here to break some new ground with an NC-17 movie. I mean, when we talk about NC-17, we would like to think that maybe a movie would have some insights into sexuality, into behavior, into prostitution in this case, or stripping, or into this kind of a woman's personality, and there's nothing. His movies are all about the same in connection with women. I think he's frightened of them. He always sees them as kind of bitch goddesses with knives and things. He has a switchblade out within 30 seconds of the opening of the movie, and there's absolutely no eroticism involving a relationship between two people.
Either he's afraid of them or he thinks that's what the audience wants to see, and that's what the audience will see. They're women as rag dolls, violent rag dolls. Giant bugs threaten Earth in Starship Troopers, a sometimes spectacular science fiction film that is directed by Paul Verhoeven, pokes fun at the gung-ho killing is fun mentality of old war movies. Here's a group of young college students deciding to join the military.
I've been thinking, and I'm gonna do it, Carmen. This is your shadow. I'm gonna go for federal service.
That's great. Carl and I are signing up tomorrow. Come with us.
And they sign up just in time because on a distant planet, killer giant bugs have launched an attack that ultimately threatens Earth. The computer-generated bugs are awfully impressive on a big screen. The movie makes the case that man is the most dangerous creature on Earth or off. Thrilling to be violent.
Some say the bugs were provoked by the intrusion of humans into their natural habitat, that a live and let live policy is preferable to war with the bugs.
Let me tell you something. I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all.
Yeah! Oh, yeah! Yeah! Oh, yeah!
Starship Troopers, based on Robert A. Heinlein's novel, is a dazzling-looking film, to be sure. The satire, I think, is broad, and I was bored only by some of the banal byplay between the young cast members. The result, a pretty good popcorn-eating picture, repetitive, but fun.
Too repetitive for me, and I have to give it thumbs down. I enjoyed the satire at the beginning,
yes,
but
I did
then
too.
At the end, and it's a movie that lasts more than 2 hours,
that's why I said
you
repetitive.
get a lot of shots of bugs being blown up. And these bugs, once you master what they look like and what they can do, are pretty boring because they don't have very many resources. They're not real interesting movie aliens like the character, for example, in the movie Alien. And you'd think that sooner or later the troopers would figure out that it's inefficient to try to kill them with machine gun bullets when all it takes is a grenade and you could blow them right up real good.
I may have been intimidated by the sheer artistry. I'm talking about the technical computer artistry of them, because when I saw the masses of them running, I thought of Jurassic Park, frankly, and how exciting it was to see those creatures, which had more personality, to be sure. But the satire constantly throughout it, I enjoyed having exposed the kick of killing, and I thought that that was what this director Verhoeven put into the story.
It just goes on and on and on.
It does go on,
and
it could have been cut by 20 minutes.
Easily. Okay, coming up next.
Hollow Man has a corny plot right out of a 1950s B-movie. It's about an egotistical maverick genius and his associates, and they're all working together on this secret government project to crack the code of invisibility. But that hokey setup is dressed up in some amazing 21st century technology, as when they try the cool reverse invisibility serum on a gorilla.
We're getting cellular reaction.
Despite warnings from his colleagues, Kevin Bacon's character, Dr. Sebastian Cain, isn't content with making animals disappear. He's ready to try that magic potion on himself.
You okay?
Yeah. Why?
You seem a little nervous.
No, I'm fine.
The problem is that once Sebastian is rendered invisible, they can't figure out how to bring him back, and that turns him into one mad scientist.
It's just a vent.
I don't know why the Bacon character goes ballistic and starts attacking everyone, turning the whole story into a slasher movie. You could call this, I Know What You Did in the Lab Last Summer. His character starts off as a cocky charmer, but soon he's groping his female colleague, sexually assaulting a neighbor woman, and throwing his ex-girlfriend against the wall. Elizabeth Shue doesn't help either with her wooden line readings, and the other researchers are just stock cliches. Now, there are some impressive visual tricks in this movie, but Hollow Man is ridiculous and tedious.
There are impressive visual tricks. That's when they shoot in the colored serum and you can see the entire system of arteries and veins, and that looks neat. And also,
neat
when
for
Kevin
biology class
when he
someday.
kind of disappears and when they reappear again and so forth, that's all neat. But you're right. They take this great and interesting and stimulating premise and then turn it into a slasher movie where he's chasing them around the lab just like The Thing, except at least you could see the thing, or at least sort of see the thing. You know? When science fiction starts with an idea, I like it when it finishes with the idea. We have a movie coming up on a future show called The Cell. It really does follow the idea all the way through to the end, instead of simply derailing halfway through and turning into a cheap thriller.
It's as if they spent all the money on the special effects. They said, look at this cool stuff we can do. We can make Bacon invisible, and we can have the gorillas run around. And then they have nothing left, so they keep the movie within the confines of this dilapidated warehouse, and everybody chases each other around, and they get locked in the doors, and they're avoiding the guy who's slashing and punching, which we've seen in a million other movies.
And what about the scene where they're climbing up the ladder as the nitroglycerin is about to blow, and the fireball comes until it licks at her heels? Now, if you know anything about physics, or if you know anything about anything...
And these doctors should, because they're research geniuses.
Above the fireball is going to be a bubble of superheated gas, which is going to kill her.
Oh, okay.
You know, she's going to breathe in once and she's dead.
So that's the one
It doesn't help that
part.
you avoid the little... That's the one realistic... Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Come on. I mean, you're right, but all of it is completely implausible, predictable, and disappointing, because they had a good premise here and they had an attractive cast. It just didn't work.
Would you like to know more?